Hello there. Welcome to section 6 of Med Instead of Meds. We're going to be talking tonight about the final step in the 7 steps of eating the med way, and that is rethink your sweets. If this is your first time joining us for one of these sessions, I just wanted to share with you what we talked about last week. Last week we talked about eating whole grains, and let me pull up a PowerPoint real quickly. I'm going to go through some of the things that we learned. So last week, we talked about the importance of eating whole grains. And we talked about what that meant when we're choosing whole grains. We should choose foods such as oatmeal, quinoa, brown rice, and popcorn. And when choosing bread and pasta, look for whole in the first ingredient on that ingredient list, such as whole grain wheat, you might look for it to say on the package. We talked about a carbohydrate choice continuum, and on the left-hand side was things that we should eat more of, which included fruits and vegetables and whole grains, beans and legumes. And we went all the way over to the far right side where it says eat less, and we talked about foods and beverages that are high in added sugar. We should eat much fewer of those. We talked about a few claims that are popular on the popular press that have been given a bad rap, which are absolutely not true about whole grains. The truth of the matter is that almost 40% of the refined grains that Americans eat are yeast bread, such as hamburger rolls and pizza crust, and those are bad for us. So we learned a little bit about the difference in the claims and what's really happening. Okay, we talked about some med tips. So one of the tips was eating grains as grains and not foods that are made from those grains. We want to get as many of those grains in our foods as we can. We talked about the importance of switching to whole grain products. We talked about different types of oatmeal. A med flip that we talked about was making our pancakes with oatmeal instead of flour. And there was a recipe that they shared with that banana oatmeal pancakes, which is on the Med Instead of Med site. We talked about a med flip switching to whole grain pasta instead of the enriched pasta, which we eat typically in this country. We talked about pumping up fruits and vegetables in our whole grains. So there were some recipes we shared that gave you an opportunity to do that. We talked about mindful eating and the med way. We've mentioned this before. And we also talked about mindful eating and label reading. So that was important. Talked about learning how to read the nutrition facts label and what the things on that meant. I talked about the new label that's out there and some of the changes that have been made to that. And then finally, we shared some really good recipes that are on the website to help you eat more whole grains in your diet. Olive oil toast, oatmeal with fruit and nuts, banana oatmeal pancakes again. We talked about making a lunch salad, a lunch wrap recipe. We talked about chicken and vegetable fried rice, whole wheat pasta with beans and greens, salmon chowder. And that was basically it, what we learned in last week's session. So this week, as I said, we're going to talk about rethinking our sweets. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you and pull that PowerPoint up. You give me just a second. And I'm going to take myself off the screen. And here's our PowerPoint for this week. So Med Instead of Meds, rethink your sweets. The first thing we want to do is just review a little bit about what it means to eat the med way. So eating the med way means we're going to eat lots and lots of fruits and vegetables of all shapes and sizes and colors. That is the core of eating the med way. We're going to eat whole grains or make all or most of our grains whole. We're going to make beans and legumes, these plant proteins, our go-tos when it comes to protein. We're going to eat fish and seafood at least 2 to 3 times per week. We're going to choose nuts and seeds as snacks and additions to meals. We're going to replace solid fats such as butter with healthy fats, particularly olive oil, which can be used for all of our cooking and eating needs. We're going to use herbs and spices in our foods as a way to reduce salt use. And we can drink red wine in moderation if we choose. That's certainly optional. Up to 1 glass for women and 2 glasses for men per day. And really importantly, the Medway also recognizes the importance of physical activity. So staying active throughout your day, enjoying meals and sharing meals with friends and family. And finally, limiting added sugar, particularly from sugar-sweetened beverages, baked goods, and processed food. So that's mainly what we're going to talk about today. As I remind you one more time, what sets the Medway apart from eating other eating patterns, these recipes and this style of eating is simple, delicious, and satisfying. And I find that to be true. I've enjoyed a lot of the recipes from this Med Instead of Meds curriculum. Remember those 7 steps to eating the Medway, and here they are. Change your protein, change your fats, eat more vegetables, eat more fruit, snack on nuts and seeds, make your grains whole, and rethink your sweets. So, again, step 7, rethink your sweets. We want to limit our sugar intake, and that means things such as sugar-sweetened snacks, candies, desserts, beverages, to no more than 3 servings per week. So this slide is entitled Sugar Making Us Sick. It illustrates the array of negative health impacts that a high sugar diet is associated with. Sugar-related health concerns include, and you see them listed here on the right-hand side, tooth decay. They're listed on the left side as well. Heart disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, diabetes, obesity, metabolic syndrome, which includes higher blood pressure, high triglycerides, a lower good cholesterol, and more belly fat. And then finally, gout is one of the things that is caused by too much sugar. So inflammation. Sugar causes inflammation. A high sugar diet, especially one low in fruits and vegetables, causes increased inflammation, which in turn increases risk for diabetes, heart disease, and other chronic diseases. Many of the chronic diseases that we face in the United States are caused by systemic inflammation. So let's talk about a little bit about the sugar in our diets. There are 2 types of sugar. On the left-hand side of the screen, you see added sugar. These are all sugars used as ingredients in processed and prepared foods, like sugars used to make breads, cakes, soft drinks, jams, chocolates, ice cream, pasta sauce, etc. These are sugars that are eaten separately or added to foods at the table as well. The second kind of sugar is sugar found naturally in food. This is not the type of sugar we're talking about eating less often. Foods that have natural occurring sugars include fruits and dairy products. There's some places we might find those. Those are naturally occurring sugars. Interesting slide here. We crave sugar from birth. Our bodies are predisposed to liking sweet foods. Unlike salty taste, which is something that we learn to like, sweet taste are something that we enjoy eating from birth. Sugar makes us feel good. Consuming sugar signals the release of serotonin and endorphins. And finally, sugar tastes good. So that's one reason people eat so much of it. How much sugar do we eat and drink? The average American consumes about 152 pounds of sugar per year. Let's look at this a different way. 152 pounds of sugar per year is about 26 to 30 teaspoons of sugar per day. This is 3 times the recommended amount of sugar that we should be eating. 3 times what we should be eating. So where does the sugar in our diet come from? In the United States, almost half of our sugar consumption comes from soft drinks. 43% of the sugar in our diet comes from sugar-sweetened beverages, such as soft drinks. 19% comes from grain-based desserts, such as cookies, pies, muffins, etc. And 16% comes from candy. Another 9% comes from dairy desserts and flavored milk. How much sugar should we eat and drink? Recommended daily sugar intake is 6 to 9 teaspoons of added sugar per day. So sugar, which is listed in grams on the food label, 4 grams equals 1 teaspoon. We often think here and talk about sugar in teaspoons, but on the food label, again, it's listed in grams. So to help you better decode the food label and know the amount of sugar you're eating and drinking, remember that 4 grams of sugar is equal to 1 teaspoon. Okay, I'll let you do the math on that. If we're supposed to have 6 to 9 teaspoons, so that would be 24 to 36 grams of sugar per day. That is not a lot of sugar. Recommended daily sugar intake is based on average calories needed by a gender. So 6 teaspoons of added sugar is recommended for women per day, or 9 teaspoons of added sugar is recommended for men per day. The recommendation versus reality, 6 to 9 teaspoons of added sugar are recommended per day. However, a 20-ounce soda has about 15 teaspoons of added sugar. That's just one soda, just one drink. The average American consumes about 23 teaspoons of added sugar per day. "74% of processed foods contain added sugar. This is an assault on our palate. This increases our daily consumption, even if we are avoiding sweet foods and beverages. Again, it assaults our palates, making us accustomed to a certain level of sweetness, even in foods that are not meant to be sweet." Okay, that's disgusting to me. So let's talk a little bit about some med tips. You should become a label detective. Read labels, the nutrition facts and ingredients lists to find sugars and to become mindful of how much sugar you consume. Buyer beware. Manufacturers may break apart different kinds of sugar on the ingredient list so that the sugar does not appear to be the first ingredient. Sugar by any other name is still sugar. This slide lists different types of sugars that you might see on the ingredient list. As you can see, sugar has all types of names, but anytime you see a word ending in OSE, you can be certain that that ingredient is a type of sugar. So I want you to think about, and we're going to probably talk about that in just a minute, think about all the different things like this that are listed in different areas on your ingredient list. Sugar might be number 5, but if they put all the sugars in one place or put them together, it would probably be the highest on the list of ingredients on your foods. That's kind of frightening. All right, let's go to the next slide. Is regular sugar better than high fructose corn syrup? Is honey okay? Is agave healthy? Sugar in the raw, is that okay? These are some questions that we might hear from time to time. So let's talk about that. High fructose corn syrup is a very cheap, very concentrated sugar that is used in a lot of foods. High fructose corn syrup is not more harmful than regular sugar. All sugars should be consumed sparingly, not just high fructose corn syrup. A little bit of the background. High fructose corn syrup has been around since the 1950s. In the 1980s and 90s, it became used in greater frequency in the food supply. As the rise in obesity corresponded with the increased use of high fructose corn syrup, some believed that high fructose corn syrup was the cause. However, it was the general increase in people eating high-calorie foods that was causing obesity, not specifically high fructose corn syrup. All right, is honey okay? Honey is not healthier than any other types of sugar. Agave is still sugar and counts towards your daily sugar intake. Like any other sugar, agave should be consumed sparingly. What about sugar in the raw? Sugar in the raw is table sugar that still has a little bit of molasses in it. Sugar in the raw is not healthier than any other type of sugar. This is still full of sugar and counts towards your daily intake. Like any other sugar, sugar in the raw, again, should be consumed sparingly. So the takeaway from this, sugar is sugar is sugar. Work towards the goal of consuming no more than the recommended daily allowance of sugar in your diet. That means 6 to 9 teaspoons per day, no matter what types of sugars you are choosing. Again, let's talk about being a sugar detective. Read labels. This slide shows labels of some foods that we don't think of as necessarily being sweet. Let's look at their labels to see how much sugar they contain. So the very top left, I believe it's the top left, says that it is, spaghetti sauce. It has 10 grams or almost 3 teaspoons of sugar in a half of cup serving. Most tomato products have a little bit of sugar to counteract the acidity of the tomatoes. However, 10 grams per half a cup is a lot of sugar. Okay, the label at the bottom left is bread, less than 1 gram or less than 1 teaspoon of sugar per 2 slices. Most breads are going to have added sugar, but 1 gram per 2 slices is fairly low. So that would be a good choice. Wheat thins in the center, the yellow that you see in the center there, 3 grams or almost 1 teaspoon in 16 crackers. Peanut butter, your label on the right, 3 grams or almost 1 teaspoon per 2 tablespoons. Notice that sugar is the second ingredient listed on the ingredient list next to roasted peanuts. So the takeaway from this slide, added sugar is in most processed foods, even those that are not sweet. As such, it is possible to consume sugar and even reach your daily limit of added sugar without even eating sugary foods. Remember that 4 grams equals 1 teaspoon. Sugar is listed in grams on the food label, but we often think here and talk about sugar in teaspoons. Again, to help you better decode the food label and know the amount of sugar you're eating and drinking, remember 4 grams of sugar is equal to 1 teaspoon of sugar. Okay, next slide. 2 foods that can have a lot of added sugar are cereals and breakfast bars. Here are some guidelines to help you make a low added sugar selection. Cereals, less than 6 grams of sugar per serving. Only a few cereals meet this standard. So we should be looking for those that have less than 6 grams per serving. And I will tell you, as one who tries to find those, they are very difficult to find. So you really have to look. Also, breakfast, granola, or snack bars, you should be looking for less than 5 grams of sugar per 100 calories. Again, not easy to find. A med flip idea here is to choose nuts instead of one of those high-calorie bars or the high-calorie sugars. Cereals. All right, in the new label, you'll see that added sugar is included. That's required now in the new label. The new nutrition facts label, again, has to have added sugar be listed. Added sugar will be listed in total grams and percent of the daily value, or percent DV is what you'll see it listed as. This will be especially helpful for foods that have both natural and added sugar, such as yogurt. Until the new label comes out, which the release was set for July of 2018, but it's been postponed to an undetermined date. We will need to continue to read the ingredients list to help us identify added sugars. So remember that list I showed you a few slides back, all the things that end in OSE. There are lots of ways to name sugar. Just be mindful of that. All right, next slide. Beware of marinades, sauces, dressings. These things are very high in sugar. So if you're looking at the ingredient list of the marinade that you see on this slide, we can see that the top 3 ingredients are high fructose corn syrup, water, and vinegar. As such, this marinade is essentially an expensive sugar water with some spices. So here is a MedLife hack, or a Go Med Life hack, to make your own marinade. This is very simple to do, very, very much healthier than what we buy in the store. So basically, to make your own marinade, you're going to choose an acid, and you see some examples there on the slide: vinegar, a citrus juice, or wine. You are going to then choose an oil. So you're going to add some type of oil, either olive oil, canola oil, or sesame oil. And finally, you're going to add some seasonings. You see there, and that's whatever seasonings that you like the flavor of. You're going to use this, and you're going to marinate vegetables, poultry, meat, fish, by placing the item to be marinated and the marinated ingredients into a container, such as a sealable plastic storage bag. You could also use a glass or plastic container or a bowl. You're going to place it in the refrigerator for the appropriate amount of time needed by that item to marinate. Very, very simple. You've cut down a lot of salt and calories by making this yourself. Notice there's no sugar in the marinade now, and it tastes really good. All right, what's next? Don't drink sugar. About 50% of the sugar we consume comes in liquid form. That means sugar-sweetened beverages. This slide features some of the most common contributors to the sugars that we drink. So you see soda, sweet tea, juice. It would be better to eat fruit instead of drinking juice. And if you do drink juice, make sure you drink it in very small amounts. Then you see a sport drink, and finally a sweetened coffee drink. There is evidence that the body does not respond to calories in beverages the same way as it does to calories in food. Your body may not register the calories you drink, so you could end up consuming more calories than you need. Calories from liquid may not help you feel full. Another way of looking at this is that your body does not see or feel the calories from beverages like it does from food. The calories in beverages are stealth calories and can cause you to consume more calories than you need. The takeaway from this slide: don't drink sugar. Your body does not respond the same way to liquid and food calories. Food calories are much more satisfying and generally more nutrient rich than liquid calories. Okay. Examples of the sugar in sugar-sweetened beverages. So this one's talking about soda. It probably comes as no surprise that a 20-ounce soda has about 17 teaspoons of sugar. Most cola and other similar drinks, regardless of if they're clear, green, orange, or brown in color, have about this much sugar. Sweet tea, may be thought of as an alternative, a good alternative to a cola. However, sweet tea has about the same sugar as other sugar-sweetened beverages. This large 20-ounce tea has 16 teaspoons of sugar. And if you guys are like me, you've got some friends whose sweet tea probably has way more than that in it. I'm sure you've tasted some mighty sweet tea in your time. Non-sugar sweetened beverage options. Medway recipes. Here's some really delicious tasting things. The ginger flavored green tea recipe. Ginger boosts the flavor of the green tea in that recipe. Then we've got a cranberry lime soda, a great transitional drink that still has natural sugar from the 100% cranberry juice. That looks delicious. Flavor your water with fruits, vegetables, and herbs. Try iced herb tea without sweetener. And you see a couple of recipes here. Strawberry mint water recipe, delicious and refreshing, has a little bit of natural sugar from the strawberries. Cucumber citrus water is a rejuvenating beverage that is simple to make. And you really don't need a recipe. So flavor your water with whatever fruits and vegetables and herbs that you like and enjoy. And again, try the iced herb tea without sweetener. Here's an idea, do-it-yourself yogurt and oatmeal. So you see the prepared Quaker oatmeal on the slide that you purchase has about 10 grams of added sugar. If you make your own oatmeal, and I'm not talking about the packaged sweet kind, just the plain oatmeal, and you add oatmeal, you add fruit and nuts to your oatmeal, then you've got 0 grams of added sugar. So there's a really great med flip. The Chobani Greek yogurt that you see here that is flavored, I think that's black cherry. It has 11 grams of added sugar, or almost 3 teaspoons for that one container. But if you buy the Greek yogurt non-fat that is plain and add your own sweetener, use less or just use fruit in your yogurt besides a sweetener. That's a really good alternative. Here's another idea. You see again the yogurt with the 11 grams of added sugar. On the right is a recipe that's on the Med instead of Med's website. If you see this, you might think, that's a weird taste combination. I will tell you, I've had this and it tastes absolutely wonderful. Cucumber, olive oil, sea salt yogurt. It's a delicious and savory treat. It's really, really good. So I encourage you to try that. Break your sugar habit. Assess your sugar intake and cut back gradually, maybe starting with beverages. Give your palate time to adjust. Allow yourself small sweets so that you don't feel deprived and become more likely to overconsume them. Buy high sugar foods in small quantities. Think quality, not quantity. Use the natural sugar in fruit to calm your sugar cravings. Okay? Next slide. Flip your dessert to be more med friendly. Try some Medway recipes. And here you see microwave baked apple. This is a Medway flip using traditional apple pie flavors. Very easy to make, very little sugar, and just way healthier and way fewer calories than the picture on the left that you see, which is traditional apple pie. What about artificial sweeteners? So the Medway recommends that you enjoy the natural flavors of the Medway of eating. For example, using fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans and legumes, fish and seafood, nuts and seeds, herbs and spices, rather than using artificial sweeteners to sweeten the taste of your food and drink. Using artificial sweeteners may impact your palate expectations. In other words, it might leave you expecting food to be sweeter than it naturally is. If you're a fan of artificial sweeteners, then artificial sweeteners are on the market and they're safe to consume. They're a better option in terms of calories than eating sugar, certainly. Let's talk a little bit about mindful living and the Medway. Living mindfully means paying attention to the events, activities, and thoughts that make up your daily life. It means doing things on purpose, not just going through the motions of or doing things the way you've always done them. Living mindfully encompasses all aspects of your life and can help you achieve your healthy eating and living goals. Mindfully living can assist you in rethinking your sweets as well as implementing all of the 7 steps to eating the Medway by helping you become more aware of your eating pattern and more present in your eating experiences. Mindful living can also assist you in being physically active, which is an essential part of the Mediterranean lifestyle. So some simple steps for mindful physical activity. Being physically active is the foundation of the Mediterranean lifestyle. Like a healthy diet, excuse me, physical activity is essential to maintaining a healthy weight. Moreover, physical activity is an important aspect of chronic disease prevention and control. Being mindful of your physical activity can help you go mid by assisting you in making physical activity the foundation of your lifestyle. And following some simple mindful physical activity strategies will help you move more throughout the day. Very, very important. So why is being active so important? There are lots of good reasons for being more physically active, and here are just a few of them. Sleep improvement, mood improvement, disease prevention, disease management, stress management, weight management, current and future mobility, and pain management. Mindful physical activity. So being active has lots of benefits and can help you achieve your overall healthy living goals. Mindful physical activity can help you take steps towards moving more. Let's take a few minutes to look at some simple mindful physical activity strategies that can help you move more. Sleep improvement, mood improvement, disease prevention, disease management, stress management, weight management, current and future mobility, and pain management. We already talked about all of those. All good reasons to be physically active. Be aware of how you move your body throughout the day. Do you take the stairs or use the elevator? Do you walk to visit a coworker or do you use email? Do you park farther away and walk or look for the closest parking space? Do you sit all day or do you get up every 30 minutes to an hour to move? Think about how active you are on most days and take every opportunity you can find to move. I cannot stress how important that is. It's extremely important. Be physically active in ways that you enjoy. Find your favorite ways to be active to help you get moving. Simple steps to mindful physical activity. Put physical activity on your calendar as you would other commitments that you put on your calendar. Planning ahead will certainly help you get moving more. Good idea. Use positive talk. Physical activity has long been given a bad rap as being hard and boring. So use positive talk to highlight the good things about physical activity. Go from I have to walk after work to I get to take a walk after work. Just be positive about the physical activity. Be in the moment and focus on how your body feels during physical activity. Ask yourself, how am I breathing? How hard am I working? How do my legs feel? Enjoy the benefits of being physically active. Take a minute or two after you're active to think about how you feel. Do you feel better, stronger, happier? Do you feel less stressed? How much physical activity is enough? Adults need at least 150 minutes every week of moderate intensity aerobic activity, such as brisk walking, or 75 minutes every week of vigorous intensity aerobic activity, such as jogging or running, and muscle strengthening activities on 2 or more days a week that work all major muscle groups. Your legs, your hips, your back, your abdomen, your chest, shoulders, and arms, or an equivalent combination of moderate and vigorous intensity activity. For even greater health benefits, adults should increase their activity to 300 minutes every week of moderate intensity aerobic activity, such as brisk walking, or 150 minutes of the vigorous intensity aerobic activity and muscle strengthening activities on 2 or more days that week that work all your major muscle groups again. An equivalent combination of moderate and vigorous intensity activity. Be mindful of your intensity level. So if you do the talk test, if you're participating in light intensity activity, you should be able to sing. If you're participating in moderate intensity, you should be able to carry on a conversation. Vigorous intensity, you become winded or too out of breath to carry on a conversation. Your perceived exertion is how hard you feel that you're working. It's a way to be mindful of your body and how you feel overall while doing an activity. When determining perceived exertion, think about your body all over, not just your legs or your breathing. Think about your overall effort and rate it on a scale from 0 to 10, with 0 being nothing at all and 10 being the absolute maximum you can do. You want to feel like you are working, but not working so hard that you're in pain. Generally, an exertion of 5 to 6 is moderate intensity activity, and 7 to 8 is vigorous intensity activity. So let's talk again. This is what we've talked about today, eating a Medway. Rethink your sweets. Rethink your sweets with Medway videos and recipes at medinsteadofmeds.com. And we'll talk through in just a second some recipes for medinsteadofmeds.com that will help you rethink your sweets. So let's go through those right now. This is a strawberry mint water recipe. Next, the cucumber citrus water, cranberry lime soda, ginger flavored green tea. This is the baked apples that we talked about to replace the apple pie that we saw earlier. This is that yummy cucumber olive oil sea salt yogurt. Peanut butter and apple slices sandwich. Banana granita with blueberries, that's really good. Fruit chaat, I think this is one of my favorite recipes. Really unusual, but really good flavor. Coconut crunch stuffed prunes. And that's it for the day. That takes us through our PowerPoint on Rethink Your Sweets. And this is our last PowerPoint for our Med Instead of Meds series. Thank you so much for tuning in to this session today. Please let me know if you have questions. You can certainly email me at ehowens@ncsu.edu, or if you're in our Facebook group, just send me a message there. Again, thank you for joining us. Have a great evening.